is KCAA.
Welcome to U-Turn Radio. Here at U-Turn Radio, we believe in big-hearted communities and small government. Join your hosts, Nadia Renner, Tom Murphy, and Eric Steinman, as we work to put local governments on a diet and champion the charities that support your community. So come on, join us and let's turn it around.
Welcome to U-Turn Radio. Happy Sunday. Just in case if you don't know, today is Gold Star Mother's Day, National Gold Star Mother's Day, and I didn't know what this was until a few minutes before the show. But this is a Gold Star symbolizes a family member who died in the line of duty while serving the United States Armed Forces. So thank you for everybody who serves in the forces and just in general. So that's what Gold Star Mother's Day represents today. It's a national day for the mothers and family of those who have served and passed. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and if any of our listeners know a mom like that, even if it happened a while ago, that's a wound that just stays forever.
Absolutely.
No mom should have to bury a child.
I agree. Absolutely. Also, Eric, our other host, is joining us via phone. Hi, Eric. You can hear us?
I can. I'm keeping it on mute when I'm not talking.
Okay. Well, Eric is via phone, and he's keeping it on mute. But we have a great show today. For the last few weeks, we've been covering San Bernardino County Fire. We've expressed that they are in the hole $29 million. We've had 4 different shows explaining why, how, who voted for. Well, they want to give a I don't know if I could say it like a tax fee or a fee, because it gets really tricky.
Yeah, actually, first of all, they actually do not have a $29 million hole in their budget. What they have is, hey, they came to the board and said, "Hey, we're short $29 million bucks," and so the board said, "Okay, we'll give you a chunk of money." They have an MOU to do that, and County Fire said, "Okay, and we'll cover the rest." Out of our reserves. Okay, so that was the budget, if you will, for 18-19.
Right.
But what County Fire then did in their presentation was say, hey, we got a plan so that this won't happen. We'll try not to let this happen in the future. And the way we'll do that is we'll expand this service zone and to cover, all the unincorporated area of the county, more than 19,000 square miles. And in doing that, it comes with it, if you will, we'll call it a tax for like I think it's $157 around that per parcel.
Right.
So that's for their plan for the future, and there's a number of issues associated that we've talked about it, and we'll kind of cover them in kind of the first half of the show here.
Right, so we're going to recap, and so this show's title is County Fire Solution Part 1, so we're going to discuss maybe some solutions to these different issues that are happening here. However, if this is your first time listening to U-Turn here at U-Turn, we definitely like to be part of and help out our community, so you can call us at area code 909-792-5222. That's 909-792-5222. We would love to reward you if you call in. That's right. We will spin the wheel, and you can win from hundreds to thousands of dollars on behalf of your favorite charity. Or if you work for a charity, you can also call in and let us know what kind of jobs you guys do at your charity, and we would love to spin the wheel for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the second half of the mission of the show. The first half is we talk about government's growing too big.
Right.
And that's kind of the first half of our mission. The second half is we talk about big-hearted communities. And one of the ways we do to support that is you call us and name your favorite charity that works, somewhere here in the Inland Empire, and we'll spin the wheel.
That's right. And you guys can also get a hold of us via email at you would email us at info@uturnradio.com. That's info@uturnradio.com. And you can check out our websites where you can find all the past episodes that we've covered too, and everything that we're recapping today. If you want more details on any particular topic that we covered today, you can definitely go on uturnradio.com and find the full episodes of everything that we covered in detail for the past 4 shows as far as San Bernardino County Fire.
Yeah, it's good.
And you can check out our social media on there as well, because we are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook now. It's actually really good. You should definitely go check it out.
You need to pull us up and follow us.
We need more followers too. All right, so let's get into it. Let's get into our show. So let's recap everything we've covered. I feel like we've covered so much from, the beginning, which was, like you said earlier today, the $29 million that they still need, right?
Right, yeah.
For the year.
Essentially, well,
for the fiscal year.
It's how to solve the problem, it's their proposal on how to get out of this hole in the future.
Well, Tom, let's talk about the bigger picture of what's going on with the county fire budget.
Well, okay, Eric, hold on just a second. We had a way to approach this, and we're guessing that we got the answer that you're going to give us to this question, but we're going to pose a question to kind of transition. And so there's 3 co-hosts on the show, myself, Nadia, and Eric. So the question I'm going to pose is, as we've gone over this FP5 thing, for the past 4 shows, what kind of stands out to you as this really bothers me?
Okay, so from the past shows that we've done, we've covered, obviously, like you said, what FP5 is, but to me, from my understanding and what we've covered, there's a voting part in this situation where they say they want to raise $157 fee, right?
Yeah.
And so, however, they're going to vote before they do that. But the vote gets really tricky. There was a letter that was sent out September 14th, and the citizens can either vote yes or no. However, if you don't vote and send in your vote, you're counted as yes, you agree with the $157.
Exactly. They assume yes.
Right. And then 2, if you do vote and you send it back in and you say, no, I don't agree with the $157, then depending on how much land you have, it's still going to count or not really count. So it gets really messy there, which I think is just so unfair. And I'm just like, why can't it just be like simple? It's either a straight yes or no. Because first of all, the letter going out on September 14th, it's like I said, sometimes there's these mail letters that we get from like the county where they don't look as important. I feel like sometimes we even think it's just like junk mail or something like that. And we just kind of look at it and it's like, it's nothing, when it's something so big, because obviously it's going to hurt our pockets in the long run, So we covered that into details. Like I said, you could go on uturnradio.com to listen exactly the detail of the letter going out and how the vote works out. But after all these shows, that's the main thing that I'm just like, that is so unfair for the citizens. And I would have never known this if it wasn't for U-Turn Radio.
Okay, so for Nadia, the answer to that question, what really bothers me about FP5 is the vote.
The vote part.
Okay, so now we're going to toss that question over to our other co-host, Eric Steinman. And we think we know the answer, Eric, but go ahead. What bothers you the most about this FP5 thing?
About the FP5 thing in particular is it's a tax that they're trying to disguise as a fee, but it's not even a tax on the people who are getting the benefit. And typically a fee is something that's benefiting a certain group of people, so you charge them a fee to offset what it is that what it is that you have to spend to provide that for that group of people. Here with FP5, they're putting this tax on people that aren't even related to where they're spending the money or why they spent the money. They've increased their budget in the city and with their administration at County Fire in order to, they've taken on a couple city fire departments that were in budget trouble themselves because they couldn't control their spending, and brought them into the county. And in doing so, this budget hole that you talked about didn't just happen. It increased the amount of that they are spending beyond any reasonable increase in the budget every year substantially, and they decided they needed to go out and get a different source of that. But they're trying to go out and get the source of that from people who are completely unrelated to, why this money is needed and where this money is being spent. And they're trying to avoid some safeguards that are, been put in place in the past to try and put some restraints on the growth of, government and taxes, where people haven't voted on it. They're trying to call it a fee instead of a tax. And that's one problem. The other problem is that nobody is taking a big picture look at this and saying, why is this budget for the county fire increasing so much, and what is anybody trying to do to stop it from increasing? Most of the increase is related to compensation, and these are people that are compensated already, about double what the average person is compensated within the county, and they have retirement benefits that are 5 to 10 times. So there's something that can be done on the compensation aspect of this to bring down the growth. And there's something that can be done structurally to bring it down, like trying to use more volunteers, certainly in remote fire stations and stuff like that, and instead of having all these full-time jobs, in fire stations that are not real busy stations. So no one's really looking for how they can stop that. And the result is you have increases of double-digit increases on average over the last 8 years in their budget, when inflation is increasing, 1 or 2 or 2.5%. So it becomes a non-sustainable thing that nobody's really looking at what's reasonable. You have the teachers asking for 5 or 6% raises, and they've increased this fire budget double digits every year. And even when they do deal with this $29 million they're trying to raise to a tax, they'll have increased the budget that much next year, so that they'll be back in the same situation, needing to find an answer for the increase in their budget. And the only real answer is they have to put some restraints on what they spend.
Yeah, and actually, we have a phone. Somebody call in, and we're gonna break to that, and then when we come back to that, I got some numbers that kind of speak to your comments there.
Yeah, so on the phone we have Pat Bell from House of Roots. She would love to invite us and invite the community to a special event they're having on October 10th. Pat?
Hi, Nadia.
Hi, welcome to U-Turn Radio. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you have an upcoming event, October 10th, Run for Ruth. Can you tell us a little bit more of what you guys are doing over there?
Yes, Run for Ruth is an event that is taking place during October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And it's an extreme 72-hour walk-run that kicks off on the morning of October 10th from University of La Verne campus. And we will be walking or running throughout several cities in the local Southern California area. And you can join at any point along the route. There will be a GPS route tracker on our website for this event. It's called runforruth.org. And if you want to just come out and walk for a mile, you can certainly do that. Or if you feel a little bit more energetic and want to run 5 miles with us, you can do that as well. Or if you are an extreme athlete, you can run the entire thing with us. We'll be wrapping up on Saturday, again, back at ULV campus, University of La Verne, and having a closing ceremony Saturday morning around 9 a.m. So I encourage all community members to come out and join us. If you don't want to participate physically, you can donate or sponsor us on the runforruth.org website, or you can just simply stand on the sidelines and cheer as we're running by.
I'm glad she put those last two caveats.
Yeah. Well, this is amazing. So again, the website where they can get more information is houseforruth.org, correct?
Our agency website is houseofruthinc.org, and this event website is runforruth.org.
When is the deadline to sign up for your event, Pat?
I'm sorry, say that again, Nadia?
When's the deadline to sign up?
There is no deadline.
Okay.
There is no fee to register. This is free to the entire community. You can actually get up on the morning of the 10th if you feel like joining us, and just look it up on the website and come on down.
Amazing. So for anybody that would love to attend, you guys can definitely check out the website. We also have the information on our social media if you guys want more information for this amazing 72-hour run, correct? On
Yes.
October 10th.
Designed to raise awareness on domestic violence.
Thank you so much, Pat, for calling us and inviting us to this amazing event and to bring, like you said, awareness to domestic violence.
Thank you, Nadia.
Awesome. So I think I might just go and maybe not run the whole thing.
Participate.
I don't think I'm ready for the 183 miles, but I think I could probably do about 3.
And that's good.
Right? Well, that was Pat. Thank you so much for calling us. And like I said, anybody who also works for an organization can definitely call us in and let us know what you guys do at 909-792-5222. That's 909-792-5222. Before Pat's call, we posed a question: what's the thing that bothers you the most about the FP5 here in San Bernardino County? I gave my opinion. So did Eric. What's your take?
Well, before we go on to my opinion, let's jump back to kind of a couple things Eric said. First of all, he said requirements or their budget is going up, double digits every year. And okay, so we're going to use 2011 as the base year, so that's kind of zero because this statistic is going to be given in percent change.
Gotcha.
And it measures, as compared to 2011, how much has their budget gone up or down in a percentage term. Okay. So if their full budget request for the year is granted, since 2011, their requirements have gone up 105%.
105%.
Yeah, 105%. Okay. So a lot of growth here, right?
Correct.
So, if you're in management, the first thing you're always going to ask is, okay, what's driving the growth, right?
Right, and that's 7 years total from 2011 to 2018 right now, right?
18, 19, so I think there's an additional year in there.
So like 7-8 years.
Yeah.
All right.
So you start kind of digging into it, and okay, you'd say, why is it growing so much? And the first thing to check is always people, number of employees, right? And in that same set of time, or that same period of time, the percent change in staffing has really kind of varied depending on what region you're talking about. And to kind of, I guess, encapsulate it, if you look at the mountain region, the North Desert region, and the South Desert region, which, by the way, are mostly unincorporated areas, the staffing levels have all gone down since 2011.
So there's the decrease of employees, but it's going up in percentage.
You get, man, you are
I'm running out of here.
Yeah, she's smart. Yeah, you have overall you have an increase in the number of employees working for County Fire, but if you take the mountain region, the North Desert region, the South Desert region, and actually there are other services and kind of clump all those, they've all actually have fewer employees than 2011.
And that's, like you said, the unincorporated areas, which that's where the fee would kind of take place from the shows that we covered. That's one of the things that was covered.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So then you look at the valley region of the fire district, which is essentially the populated areas here down, not in the high desert below. So it's like Upland, San Bernardino City, Fontana.
Riverside.
Doesn't include Riverside, a different county. If you look at the staff levels there, Valley Regional has gone up 67.5%.
Okay.
And the administrative staff has gone up 81%. So if you kind of look at a big picture, there's this shift in resources, if you will, and it's a shift away from the unpopulated, if you will, the unincorporated regions, and the resources are increasing in the populated areas or the valley region. And like we've said, FP5 is really not going there.
Right.
It's for a couple places. It's for Upland and San Bernardino City. It's already there. It's FP5 is going to go over the whole 19,000 square miles of the unincorporated areas of the county.
And something else that I think we should mention too, it's that they're not adding any more services. So this fee would take place, but you're not getting anything extra for this extra fee that we'd be paying as citizens.
Right.
They're keeping the same thing. And
same thing.
They had a supervisor board meeting, and we played that audio where they kind of acknowledged that there's no more services adding on. It's actually going to be the same thing.
But in fact, over that period, you're getting less services in the rural areas, in the mountain and the desert region, where the majority of this tax is going to fall.
You got fewer folks out there, so presumably that's that is a function of lesser services. I don't know the details if they've closed
Well,
some
they
stations.
had a
out there.
decrease in staffing, so that's quite simply less firemen.
Now, I got a question. Like, as far as the control part, who really controls, like, the hiring process? Like, if you're over budget, like, how are these things controlled?
Well, actually, that's a fair question, but I think the driver is a little different.
Okay.
The driver is, imagine a business whose budget requirements have gone up, 105%.
105%.
There's a reason for that. And typically the reason is growth. For some reason they're growing.
Right.
So as you look at these charts, county fire ain't really growing out in the unincorporated areas of the county. Mm-hmm. They're growing in one place, down in the valley region.
And they're administrative.
And administrative. And if you look at what's happened since 2015, the fire department or county fire, remember they sucked in San Bernardino City, so they annexed San Bernardino City, and county fire is now served by San Bernardino, or San Bernardino City is now served by county fire. It used to be a city function. Same thing, like Bob was talking about last week, same thing out in Upland. During that same period of time, Upland used to be a municipal fire department, and now it's transitioned to a county. So,
Gotcha.
So the growth in county fire since 2015 has been almost entirely down in the valley region and the administrative area. So in terms of hiring, they're taking in a lot of these cases they took people from the city fire department and just made them county employees.
Right. And just to clarify, you mentioned Bob Cable. Bob Cable was our guest last week here, and he was pretty much talking about FP5, and he has he's owner of Cable Airport, and he was kind of going over why FP5 is pretty much hurting or will hurt his business, and why it's extremely unfair as a business owner's perspective. And that was Bob Cable, our guest last show, and you could definitely check that out on uturnradio.com as well.
Yeah. And looks like we got to go to a break here in a little bit, but just some numbers in terms of the county fire growth.
Right.
Since 2015, the big driver was when they took on San Bernardino City. According to the numbers that county fire submitted to LAFCO, which is the organization that kind of decides, basically $30 million a year. So county fire, when they took over San Bernardino City, estimated it was going to run them $30 million a year, going up to like $34 million a year through 2021. Upland, they estimated almost $10 million a year, and then 29 Palms, which is out in the unincorporated area or the desert area, that's only close to $2.5 million, and Needles, again, out in the desert, unincorporated area, although Needles is incorporated, it was 1.9, almost $2 million a year.
Wow.
So the burden for county fire really isn't out in those areas. It's down here when they sucked up San Bernardino City and Upland.
Okay, so on that note, we're going to go into break. You still have to answer what bothers you the most about this after sharing these numbers as well. And then we can also recap the vote that the supervisors had in regards to FP5 here on U-Turn Radio when we get back.
We'll be right back to U-Turn after this commercial break. Don't go away.
Come out and participate in the annual Run for Ruth Extreme 72-Hour Walk or Run and help raise awareness for domestic violence prevention. The event begins October 10th at the University of La Verne campus. Participants make their way through Southern California and across the finish line on October 13th between 9 and 11 a.m., returning to the University of La Verne. This is a free community event, and participants of all ages are welcome to join for any portion of the route. Bring a scooter, stroller, or just your running shoes and be a part. Help your community to end domestic violence. Go to runforruth.org to register, donate, or learn more about the event. Come soar with us. We're Ziplines, located in the San Gabriel Mountains, right next to Mountain High Ski Resort. We offer the thrill of a lifetime, zipping through one of our 2 zip courses that are literally built in the trees. Our Canopy Tour is one of the most ambitious zipline courses in the nation, offering heights of up to 300 feet above the forest floor and lengths of over 1,500 feet. Our mountaintop tour provides another amazing zipline experience and, as a bonus, a very unique experience. Imagine leaping off a tree platform in a controlled free fall. Now imagine doing it twice. These are not for the faint of heart, but we know you have the right stuff to soar with us. For further information, please visit our website at ziplinesPC.com. That's ziplinesPC.com. You can make sure we hold a place for you by selecting your tour package and date online. That's ziplinesPC.com. Come soar with us. Ugh, let's make a U-turn.
Why?
We are heading in the wrong direction. To get to our destination, we need to make a U-turn.
Just like when you're heading in the wrong direction, you have to turn it around. The government has to do the same. Here on the U-Turn Radio Show, we think that proper incentives are important if you want a good government. We believe good government is government limited in its size, its power, and its spending. And we are certain that limited government facilitates a free society. A society where all challenges, no matter the size, can be solved by neighbors working together rather than big government bumbling.
You too have control. Grab the wheel and help control the destiny of our community, and join us as we cover topics that bring awareness to issues happening in our neighborhoods. Let's drive and make a U-turn into the right direction, and join us here on KCAA every Sunday at 2 p.m.
Tom, Nadia, and Eric are back with more only on the U-Turn Radio Show right here on KCAA.
Welcome back to U-Turn Radio. We are live and direct on this beautiful Sunday. Eric is joining us via telephone. And right before the commercial break, we were going over the question. We've covered FP5 here.
Well, Nadia,
yes.
do you want to do before we get going, do you want to do that spinner for the House for Ruth?
Yep, we could definitely do that as well. House of Ruth is having an event October 10th. It's a 72-hour run, walk. You could run, walk. You can take your stroller, and you can join them. It's a free event for the community, October 10th. It starts in La Verne, the University of La Verne. They're going to stop in Santa Monica Pier, Angel Stadium, and then they're going to make their way back to Pomona. So that's October 10th. You could go on houseofruth.com, and they have all the information on there. So if you want to get involved, and also it's they're bringing awareness to domestic violence. On October is the month for domestic violence awareness.
And Tom, do you get that spinner?
I do.
Ready?
We spinning for them?
Yeah.
What is it landing on?
$1,400.
1,700.
No, 1,400.
Or 400. I was adding it. Definitely adding a little bit more on there. So yeah, Thank you so much for that, Tom. So we're going to go ahead and give that to, and get in touch with Pat Bell, who called us earlier on the show, to give us all that information on House of Ruth. So we'll make our donation to them. And also before the commercial break, we were going over the question, FP5 and what bothers you the most. And that question comes across because we've covered the last 4 shows. The San Bernardino County Fire is going to impose a fee of $157, but it gets really crazy and detailed, which you could catch those shows on uturnradio.com. But before the show, we asked the question, what bothers you the most? Eric said his part, I said my part. So Tom, you shared some numbers with us as well. What is the most, or what's the thing that bothers you the most?
Well,
this FP5.
Okay, can I have 2 answers? They'll be quick.
All right,
okay,
let's
go. The first answer, not in order, but the first answer is the vote.
Okay.
The fact that if you look at the history of California law as it pertains to taxes, Prop 13, Prop 218, Prop 26, the voters have said time and time again, don't take money from us unless we get a vote on it. Mm-hmm. That's clear. That's what the intent is, and time again, the government system has figured a way around that intent. And it is disappointing that the County Board of Supervisors in this situation has elected to choose that same path, to get around what is the clear intent of California law. Okay, so that's one.
That's one.
The second thing that bothers me is if you read their documentation, they don't name this. They call it a levy. And if you look again into California law, this is not a levy. It's a tax, it's an assessment, or it's a fee, or it's a charge.
For the people that don't know what a levy is, what is a levy?
A levy is just, it can be used as a verb or a noun.
Okay.
Okay, and a levy just means taking money from you.
Gotcha.
As a noun, it's kind of and I believe according to California law, a levy is kind of a general term and doesn't mean anything specifically. If you look at California law, a tax means something specifically. It has a specific definition. So when they did this, they should have named it whatever it was, a tax, an assessment, a fee, a charge.
Got it.
And in none of their documentation do they actually do this. So U-Turn Radio is going to label this.
What are you going to label
We're going to call it a tax.
Okay. But it can't be a tax.
It is. That's what we're
because
calling
we are not voting for that.
Well, but the Board of Supervisors didn't. They chose not to name it, so we're going to name it.
All right. So that'll be our name here at U-Turn Radio. Well, also one thing that we covered in one of our shows is the responsibility that the supervisors have in this because they get to vote as well, right?
Right.
And there's 5 supervisors, 2 voted no, and 3 voted yes.
Yes, that's correct.
And one of them, which is Ramos, and he's district number 3 here in the county, he voted yes. And one of the reasons why he stands out the most a little bit from these votes, it's because he has the most unincorporated area of the district.
No, not the most. He has some. He has, if I remember correctly, he has upwards of 25 communities in his district that are considered unincorporated.
Gotcha.
So, that's again, most of his voting base or his responsibility base is going to be in down below here in the valley area. But he does have a large constituent or a large area of unincorporated folks living in unincorporated areas. So it's fair to ask, why did he vote for that?
Right.
And, this is just speculation on my part, but he's running hard for and the election's coming up here in November. He's running hard for an assembly position at the California legislature, and supporting the strong union is never a bad choice in California elections. And by kind of pushing this thing along for county fire,
right.
The county fire unions the fire unions are going to look at that favorably.
Right. So let me just run through real quick. Who voted for no was Lovingood and Rutherford. And then
Right.
yes was Ramos, Hagman, and Gonzalez.
Right.
I voted for yes.
And Supervisor Lovingood, he's got a lot of unincorporated area in his territory. He made a very valid point, and that is that a lot of the county fire calls in his area are not residents. They're people on I-15 or I-4, I think I-40, driving, through the desert and getting an accident or something like that. And so, why are you going to put this tax
right.
on my constituents when a lot of the service is not for my constituents? It's people driving from San Diego, from L.A., et cetera, out to Las Vegas or something like that. Okay, so that's him. Supervisor Rutherford, she voted no because she learned her lesson, really. She kind of passed on the vote in Upland and really got, if you will, flame sprayed by her constituents because they never had a chance really to vote on it. And
now I'm just going to pose this question too. Do you think that it matters that it might be the last time she's also going to be in this position? It's her last term. No. I think she would. I think she learned her lesson, and I think she was representing her constituents accurately in that June meeting, where she said, "Our residents want a chance to have a straight up, down, yes, no vote." Okay.
And that was the context of the conversation, was this protest process that, is kind of a bogus vote. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so then we obviously covered Ramos. He voted yes, and then Hagman and Gonzalez also voted yes.
Yeah, and for them, there's no upside to voting no, because they don't. Not that they don't have any, but if they have any, they have very few unincorporated areas in their two districts. So essentially, from their perspective, hey, I'm going to vote yes. That's going to bring another $27 million into the county, and there's no political cost for me because none of my residents care about that.
Right.
So kind of a no-brainer, easy vote for them.
Absolutely. So, and they obviously have a lot of influences as their vote, correct? And like this whole process of FP5.
So let me take a comment in here a second. What should be happening is, what you need for good government in this situation is to have people that are making those decisions, making those votes, that are not subject to any conflicts or any outside pressures on doing them, that are, first of all, trained enough or have the right experience that they can make, business type decisions on what do we have to spend and when, and then they don't have outside influences that don't allow them to make the right decision. And that's where this system in the county of allowing these large contributions when people run for office from certain parties creates a lot of conflicts, and why there's a need to, create the same type of safeguards against them voting, for their personal interest as against the people's interest that exist, when someone serves on a charitable board or somebody serves on a board of directors in the private sector. And so if you go to the perfect situation, they're people that have some background and realize that the question isn't what's the most amount that we can expend and then where we're going to get the money. The question is, what can we afford to spend within the means of everybody and still do the balancing that, you're helping the people in the county achieve more, have a higher standard of living. You're not overtaxing people. You're, providing the best service for the available resources that are there, and that you're not influenced by making the correct decision on that. So in a situation like this in California and in this county, every year the property values are increasing. There's originally the fire budget was financed out of a percentage of the property tax revenue, so there's a huge increase in the fire budget every year anyway because the amount that they get from property taxes go up. That hasn't historically been enough for them, so they've gone out and found another way of getting revenue. And that first stab at that was to start charging for people when the ambulance showed up to pick you up and take you to the hospital. And when you talk about Loving Goods district and having a lot of that being accidents on the freeway, there is a revenue source for that they already have. When those people are picked up and taken to the hospital, their insurance company or they personally are charged for that ambulance trip. That's a whole different layer that isn't being paid by the property tax. And then they've gone out and got another source of income, which is let's start charging people in certain communities ambulance insurance. So you'll pay anyway, even if you don't use the ambulance. But then when they come pick you up with the ambulance, you don't have to pay. But they collect a fair amount of money on this ambulance insurance. And then that hasn't been enough, so they've gone out and charged fees for and this is what the gentleman on the last show, Mr. Cable, was talking about. They charge fees when you go for a building department. They charge fees when you deploy any type of equipment to verify the hazardous materials. So they have a whole set of fees that they're charging on people. And that still hasn't been enough. And they're still not, no one's taken the thing that this is how much money we have. All these sources of revenue keep increasing. Why don't we try and make the services that we're providing fit within the revenue we have? It's become what can we spend, and then let's get the money to handle whatever we want to spend, not what do we have the ability to spend.
Yeah, I think that reminds me of a little vignette we had a couple of shows ago where what you really would have wanted each of those supervisors to do at that hearing would be say, that's too much. We can't afford it. Our residents can't afford it. Right. So let's go back and figure out a way to live within our means. And
there are ways of doing that, and that's, I think, when you talk about solutions, there's certainly ways of doing that. You can go from these defined benefit plans that are hugely, hugely expensive, make up about 17% of the budget in the county or something to that effect, and go to defined contribution plans like everybody else gets.
Yeah.
There's a big savings. You can go to the use of volunteer fire people, especially in the off hours in the 12 to 6 time period. You don't have to have that station staff, certainly in sleepy communities. And in sleepy communities, you don't need to have it staffed all the time either. You can have paid volunteers that are providing a lot of that service and, live as close to the fire department as you want and, provide the same response times that, they're getting right now. I think that's been proven out by, the city of Calamasa, for instance, and their fire department. They've gone away from the county fire department. That's granted a different county, but they went away from the county fire department as they kept increasing the budget, put their own fire department in, and they've doubled the amount of firemen providing service and reduced the budget by 60%, or not 60%. It would be 1/3 of what the budget would have been under the county.
And that's actually a great segue to
the solution. I was just going to say that you literally took the words out of my mouth. I think it's a great way because sometimes too, Eric, to your points, like instead of saying saying what can we spend, having a budget and trying to figure out solutions, one of the things too that we kind of have to ask ourselves is, are the people on the board really for the citizens? Or is it time for maybe new leaders, Could that be part of the solution as well?
And that's, if you will, we've kind of addressed FP5 in terms of kind of the issues it raises. And basically from now until the end of next week's shows, we're going to talk about a couple solutions. And today, with the time left, we'll talk about kind of a general solution, and it has to do exactly with what you said.
Right. Do we need new candidates? Do we need new people, new leaders? And if so, where do you find these new leaders?
That's
What type of leaders are we really looking for? Because I think I feel like the knowledge that I've acquired since I started with U-Turn Radio, and I think this is why this is such an amazing show, because you really get informed about maybe topics that you don't hear on a regular basis, and you probably wouldn't know unless you're doing your own research. But I think too that from my understanding, when people come into certain positions, they kind of just maybe start with a good plan, but then get on a different type of agenda while they're in there. And it almost seems like, I don't know if it has to do with what changes in that transition from let's do good for the people, because technically supervisors are who represent our citizens, right?
Right, and really the first question is who do you pick? What kind of characteristics, what does it look like in terms of, somebody that we would want to see raise their hand and say, yeah, I want to run for county supervisor, and I want to do it because I feel like government is expanding exponentially, and I'd like to step in there and kind of make it my mission to rein that in. So what does that candidate look like? How do you go out and find somebody like that?
I really think it could be somebody that cares about the community, that wants to see different, that definitely has a vision of what we could be if we just really work towards, doing better rather than saying, oh, let's just raise fees or taxes, as we want to call it here at U-Turn Radio, rather than saying, like Eric mentioned, what can we spend and how are we, I think too, like what are we spending this money on? And what's in our budget to make sure we have better control. I also think that it's people that are already making a difference without having a title. I think that's the most important thing. I think that we have a lot of people in the community that probably don't get that, that light, that are already creating change, and they don't have a title, and they're just doing it because that's just in their heart to do without getting paid for it or without having their own agenda, but just to really have a better place where they live and work and play. So I think definitely might look like something like that for me.
I would very much agree with you. To your first point, the fact that it should be somebody who's involved in the community, or cares about the community. Obviously, you don't want somebody stepping into the position if their care is for something else.
Yeah.
Well, if we're having a philosophical discussion on it, there's really two camps of thought, and on that. If you want the people that are elected to serve, in the interest of the people, there's one school of thought that says, don't overpay them, and pay them, no more than they would be getting if they were just out in the community with a job and that type of thing. And then if they're in that job thinking, look, I'm giving my time, and this is, they're not going to care so much that they get reelected from a financial standpoint. Sure, there's prestige and stuff like that you have to deal with as well, but from a financial standpoint, there's one school that says if you're paying them, more than they're going to get elsewhere, then they've got a huge incentive to stay in office, and then the people that can wield influence by making campaign contributions and stuff have a huge, hammer over them, in terms of what they want to do. The other school of thought on that is, and I think, like Singapore is what most people would consider a fairly well-run country. They take the position that you take your electeds and pay them, a ton of money so that they're not subject to any of these outside influences. That they're getting paid so much money that they don't need to worry about the future, or they don't need to worry about, getting reelected or whatnot. And that's kind of the two sides to that argument. But nobody argues that being less than a whole heck of a lot of money, but certainly a lot more than average people get in the county, and more than the people that are elected would be getting it elsewhere, is a good idea. and that's what we have. So there's two paths to go from here, but staying the course is not the right path. And in fact, the people of the county voted 64% to take the first path that was discussed, which was reduce the pay of the county supervisors to the average pay of people within the county, and reduce their retirement benefits to the average of what people were getting in the county as well. And the supervisors basically pulled a dirty trick on that in 2012 so that people's will did not take effect in that event. So that's a little background on where we're at in San Bernardino County on that issue.
Eric, but let me ask you, would it, because I feel like I have a hard time trying to say, like, I don't think, like, anybody would say, yeah, let me cut my pay. Like, I don't, like, what would be, like, how does that work? If they've been in these positions.
No person ever.
Right. So how do you, so how does that happen? Like, how do you say, let's cut your pay?
There are people that, will do community-minded stuff for no pay or for $1, and you come across those situations all the time. I think people like, it just comes to mind, I think this guy Michael Bloomberg, who serves in New York, takes $1 in pay or something like that. And there are people that can and will do that. And people who have, a retirement already or, have secured their financial future may be happy to go in there and work for a small amount of money. Or, on the other hand, there's people that, don't make that much money. They're, maybe they're flipping burgers, but they do a bunch for Little League and all this other stuff, and they're making less than the average amount of people in the county. So if you have, $50,000 or $60,000 of compensation for them to go into the supervisor position, and it only requires, and this is that you meet for about an hour and a half every 2 weeks, they may look at that as, that's fantastic. But once they get in there, they're probably, with all the, stuff that they're doing or whatever, it's not an amount that's going to say, I'm going to hold on to this, whatever it takes. And if that means I'm going to, kind of sell out the people's interest to some of my own interests, I'll do that. That would be, one, like I say, one side of the contention on what you do to go from here.
Right.
And that has been voted on by the people. When you say, how does that happen, they're not going to do it themselves. But
right.
You can put an initiative on the ballot and have the people vote on it. And that, in fact, happened. And then the supervisors put a misleading initiative on the same ballot, and people thought they were voting for both of them because 65% of the people voted for each of them. And they canceled each other, basically, so that, nothing really happened in that regard. So when someone does that, there should be some accountability, on the supervisors for doing it. In this case, it really hasn't come to roost, but, somebody has to go through all the grief again and get the signatures and send the money to put another initiative on that's clearer, take them to court, all that entails, that type of thing. And that's what, our organization exists to do, but it's by no means easy or fast to take that path.
I want to definitely take the time, too, being that we're talking about this and highlighting people that are probably doing things in the community that don't get, like, that light, and they're trying to, change our community. I would love to hear those stories. And if you know somebody that's already doing something positive in our community and trying to make a difference, if you can email us at info@uturnradio.com. I would love to hear those type of stories, and maybe we can highlight, the people that are already trying to make a difference and do it with, like Eric mentioned, maybe no pay, maybe little pay, or they're just volunteering because they just want a better community and just a better future for, new generations to come and kids.
People show their colors in the stuff they do like that, and you can expect that if you put those people into office, that they may be less susceptible to some of these outside influences than other people. Part of the problem, though, is when you put those people in and it's just one, there is always a kind of a tendency to conform to what everyone else does. And if you go in there as one person, you're kind of got the clutch in because you really can't do anything without having a vote of 3 of the 5 people. So to some degree, it's incumbent, if you're going to look at getting people elected, to look at getting 3 people elected, as is in the upcoming election.
Right. Well, that wraps it up for us here at U-Turn Radio. I want to thank Pat Bell from House of Ruth, who invited the community to come out on October 10th for the Run of Ruth. You can definitely get more information, houseofruth.org. All the information's on there. Next week, we're going to have Mr. Jeff Hewitt, and we're going to talk about more solutions here on U-Turn Radio Part 2.
Right. Specific solutions.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
Busy day in the NFL. I'm Jeff Nathanson. Right to the scoreboard. Games in progress right now. Halftime in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and the LA Chargers even 17-17. In Northern California, in Oakland, the Browns are leading the hometown Raiders 20-14. Early in the third quarter there, Raiders having a tough season so far. In Phoenix, the Cardinals lead the visiting Seahawks 10-7. That is early in the third quarter. Also in the third, on the East Coast, it's the Saints leading the Giants by a score of 12-7. Earlier today, some thrillers in overtime. It was the Texans over the Colts, 37-34. Houston, a couple of field goals to win it in overtime. Andrew Luck, 464 yards passing, 4 touchdown throws, and the Colts lost the game. Mitchell Trubisky was the fantasy pick of the day, 6 touchdown passes for the Bears quarterback in their 48-10 win over the Buccaneers. The Bengals beat the Falcons 37-36, the final in that one. Bad news, Tyler Eifert probably out for the season with a leg-ankle injury. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers blanked the Bills 22-0. It was the Patriots over the Dolphins 38-7. James White had a couple of touchdowns in that game, earning praise from quarterback Tom Brady.
I knew where he was running, and I knew I didn't have much time to wait for him to get there, so I just tried to flip it up there to the back corner. And right when I let it go, I thought, we got a shot. And I kind of looked under some legs and saw him put his arms up and make a great catch, so it was pretty sweet.
Patriots beat the Dolphins 38-7. Titans over the Eagles 26-23 in overtime. The Cowboys beat the Lions by a score of 26-24. Zeke Elliott, 152 yards rushing. Baseball, last day of the regular season. Dodgers blanked the Giants 15-0. Rockies winning 2. Looks like a one-game playoff tomorrow for the NL West. This is NBC Sports Radio.
This is KCAA.
If you think our government's war policy has become out-of-this-world cuckoo,